So tonight we'll be learning teachings of Tzadok of Lublin and Parshat Beha'alotcha. And Parshat Beha'alotcha, it's an amazing parsha. It's so full. There's so many different things going on in this parsha. It's a very exciting parsha, and in the very middle of the parsha, so we have this very enigmatic paragraph. This is the paragraph of Vayihi b'ntzah Ha'aron. Vayihi b'ntzah Ha'aron v'yom Moshe, and this is the psukim that we say when we take the Torah out of the ark, of the one of three arks, and we put them back. We say v'nocha yomar. These two psukim, so like they have a very prominent place in our prayer services, and in the Torah there's something very, very unique. Something that this is actually an anomaly. That it's the only time that it says in the Torah that these upside down nuns, that before and after these two psukim, Vayim and Sahar, so it has these upside down nuns, something that doesn't exist in Chumash. It exists once in Sefer Tehillim. It also have, but in Chumash, this is the only place that you have such a thing, and there's something very special about this, and so Chazal said that this is to tell you that it's considered its own book. It's considered as its own sefer, and so to the point that there's an opinion in the Chazal that says that there's actually, we always think that there's 5 books of Moses, right? That there's Chamisha Chumshei Torah. There's an opinion that says no, there's actually 7 books, because you have Bereshis, Shmais, Vayikra, the beginning of Bamidbar, and then you have these two psukim. Vayhi ben Sarah is its own book, and then you have the rest of Bamidbar, and so Bamidbar is divided into 3, and then Devarim is the 7th. Okay, so it's considered its own book, and so the Balaturim, so on these psukim, so he says something very fascinating, that there's a hint to this. There's a hint to this that it's considered its own book, and that is that the pasuk Vayihi b'ntzah Ha'aron has 12 words, and that's corresponding to the last pasuk in the Chumash, because it says U'lekol yad chazaka u'chol ha'meir hagadol asher asa Moshe le'enei kol Yisrael, and that's the last pasuk in the Chumash, and that pasuk has 12 words. And the second pasuk U'v'nucho yomar Shuvah Hashem Revot Ofei Yisrael, that has 7 words, and that's corresponding to the first pasuk in Chumash, Bereshis bara Elokim es Hashemayim v'ha'aretz. That's 7 words. So the first pasuk has 12 words, corresponding to the last pasuk in Chumash. The second pasuk has 7 words, corresponding to the first pasuk in Chumash. So it has a hint to the very end, at the very beginning, and that's coming to teach you that it's its own thing. It includes inside itself the entirety of Chumash, the entirety of a sefer. That's why it's called its own book. Now, you notice that there is something actually awkward about this remez, because it says the beginning. It says it's its own book. It doesn't say it's its own Torah, right? And yet the Balaturim is saying that it's the beginning of the entire Chumash, the end of the very end of the whole Chumash. So what's up with that? Okay, so what's up with that? And moreover, so we have to understand what are these two numbers. What's the idea of 12? What's the idea of 12 in Torah? What is the idea of 7 in Torah? And thirdly, that how come it's backwards? How come in the Chumash first we have Bereshis, which is 7, and then at the end you have L'chol yad chazaka, which is 12. So how come, if that's what it's representing, so how come in this parsha, so it's backwards? First we have the end, first you have the 12, which comes before, and then you have the 7, which is supposed to be Bereshit, which is at the end. Okay, so that's what we're trying to understand. That's what Tzadok is going to be explaining over here. So perhaps as a preface to what Tzadok says, so I want to share with you a very beautiful thing that I heard many years ago from one of my Rebbeim, Moshe Shapiro, Tzachon Livracha, that he quoted from the Chida, that the Chida has a very interesting teaching about these two psukim, Vayihi b'ntzah Ha'aron, that the Gemara says, the Mishnah says actually, that there's a halacha of, what if you have a Sefer Torah that gets burned, chas v'shalom, and there's only a tiny bit left. What's the smallest amount that it's still considered a Sefer Torah, that it still has the halachot you have to give respect to a Sefer Torah? So the Gemara says that the minimum is 85 psukim. 85 letters, I'm sorry. 85 letters. What's special about 85 letters? Because 85 letters is the amount of letters that it has in this Vayhi ben Saharon, these two psukim, is 85 letters. And because it's its own sefer, so then the smallest sefer that we find in Tanakh is... So on this statement of the Gemara, so there's a wild commentary from the Chida that says as follows, that why is it that we're learning from these psukim, Vayhi ben Saharon? Why are we learning from this? What's the halachas of a sefer Torah that was destroyed and only a tiny bit was left? The reason is because actually Vayhi ben Saharon is actually the remnants of a huge book. That there's an enormous sefer Torah that was meant to be shared, that was meant to be revealed, and this is a condensed version of this huge, almost infinite sefer. And that's why when we're trying to figure out what is the minimum of a condensed version of a leftover version, so then this is where we look. This is the place to look. And he says that this awesome, this enormous book, so this will only be revealed when Mashiach comes. That only then will we be able to be privy to what is the actual story, what is the actual teachings of this incredible book. So on the statement of the Chida, so Ramesh Shapiro said as follows: that we know what is the Torah? What is the Torah? If like in very simple words, so the Torah is not just a book of rules. The Torah, it starts with the story of the creation, and it ends with the story of the Jewish people until they came to the edge of Eretz Yisrael. So really, the Torah is the story of the Jewish people. That's what the Torah is. And then Moshe dies, and then you have the Nevi'im, then you have the prophets. And so the prophets, they continue the story. They continue the story that they keep on writing the story of the Jewish people, and that's what Torah is. That Nevi'im is Torah, Nevi'im is Torah, Ksuvim is Torah. So that we continue to tell the story of the Jewish people, and the story of the Jewish people is what we call Torah. And then comes a very unfortunate phenomenon, and that is that there's no more prophecy. There's no more prophecy. Beginning of the Second Temple, so Hashem took away the ability to have prophets, and so there were never someone that could write down the story.
The story of the Second Temple?
Mm-hmm. And towards the beginning of the Second Temple, we have Chag Zachariah Malachi, and they were active in helping to build the Second Temple. But Malachi was the last. Malachi was the last of the prophets, and he came up with Ezra to build the Second Temple. Okay, so then there's no more prophecy. So once there's no more prophecy, so then there's no way to write down the story of the Jewish people. So we asked, what happens then? Does the story of the Jewish people stop being Torah? Probably not, right? Probably the story of the Jewish people continues to be Torah. It's just that we don't have anybody who can interpret it, that can teach us what is the Torah of what's going on to us. So really, every day, every part of Jewish history, there's a Torah. Hashem is talking to us. Hashem is teaching us something awesome through everything that happens to the Jewish people. And it's just, if only we had prophets, then the prophets would be able to teach us like that. This is actually what you're supposed to. Instead of prophets, we have journalists. We're stuck with all the wrong people telling us what we're supposed to make of current events. But really, everything that happens to the Jewish people, everything is Torah. Everything is Hashem is trying to tell us something, is trying to teach us something, and we're supposed to become wiser through everything that's happening to us. So that is what the Chida meant. That when Mashiach comes, he's going to teach us. He's going to reveal what was actually the meaning, what was actually the teaching, what was actually we're supposed to be taking away from every element, from every chapter in Jewish history, and every day in our lives. That something is happening to us, and there's something that Hashem is telling us as an individual, telling us as a nation, that we're supposed to be taking from the things that happen to us. Okay, so this is really the story of exile. This is the story of the Jewish people in exile, and that's why this paragraph, these two psukim of Vayhi ben Saharon, so this takes place in the middle of Bamidbar, in the middle of the desert, because the desert represents the galut, and that's based on the pasuk in Yechezkel, that the pasuk refers to the midbar ha'amim, that I'm going to put you into the desert of nations. It refers to the exile as a desert, and meaning that a desert is when we're not where we're supposed to be. We're not in civilization. Being in Israel, that's called being civilized. Being in America, that's called being uncivilized. Okay, it's called being in a wasteland. That's called being that where people weren't meant to be. We're Jews. People were supposed to be. The Indians for sure were supposed to be there until those colonialists came. But Jews are not supposed to be in America. Jews are not supposed to be anywhere else. Jews are just supposed to be here. This is where we're considered civilized, and it's considered the desert. To be anywhere else is considered the desert. So that's why being in Galut is really symbolized by this book that we're in right now, of the book of Bamidbar. Okay, so now what's the Torah say? That Vayhi Mitzah Ha'aron V'Yom Moshe. So it talks about the Aron, talks about the Torah, the ark, which is the holding the Torah. That everywhere that the Jewish people go, the Torah goes with them. So really, the path, the journey of the Jewish people in the desert, or the path of the Jewish people in their exile, that's actually the Torah. The Torah is moving. The Torah is taking this journey itself. It's going places, and it's teaching us new things. And that is that the travels of the Jewish people is, in fact, the travels of the Torah. And that's what this pasuk means. That's what this pasuk means, that Shuva Hashem reverse Avei Yisrael, that wherever the Torah goes, the Jewish people go, wherever the Jewish people go, the Torah goes, because what happens to us is Torah. Okay, so this is really just an intro to understand what Sefer Bamidbar is all about. It's all about is to understand that every day of our lives, every chapter in Jewish history is Torah. That Hashem is constantly speaking to us. Hashem is constantly revealing His will to the world through what's going on to the Jewish people, specifically in the land of Israel, and so this is what this book is really all about. These two paragraphs, these upside down nuns, is something very, very special. And when Mashiach comes, he's going to explain the longer version of these two psukim. He's going to explain that there's this awesome, infinite book of how every single day in our lives was actually Hashem teaching us something. Okay, so now if we understand what is the difference between Galut and Geula? What is the difference between being in exile? And we're saying being in exile right now, that even though we're fortunate to be in the land of Israel right now, but we're still in Galut, because things are still upside down, and we still have to deal with these ridiculous sirens, and we have to deal with this anti-Semitism all over, and the things are still very, very upside down. Just this morning, somebody set fire in a shul in Jerusalem, and put a cross on the door. It's insane. It's insane. In 2025. And so we're still very much not in Geula. We're still very, very much, things are very upside down. Things are very far from where they should be and where they will be. And so what is the difference between Galut and Geula? So this is the difference. This is the difference between 6 and 7. This is the difference between 6 and 7. Okay, what do I mean 6 and 7? So the model of 6 and 7 obviously comes from the days of the week. So we have 6 days of the week, and then we have Shabbat. Okay, so what's the difference between 6 and 7? So 6. This is back to Reb Tzadok. Reb Tzadok says that 6 represents the directions, and so there's north, south, east, west, up and down. Those are the 6 directions, and 6 represents movement.
And it's 4 directions.
There's four. Like the north, south, east, west, and then up and down. Right. Okay. So up and down is also directions.
What about right, left?
Right, left is either going to be north, south, east, or west.
Oh, you're saying up to the sky or down?
Yes.
I see.
Okay, so you have 6 directions, and then you have the seventh. The seventh element. So it's not a direction. What's the seventh? The seventh is the middle. Okay, the seventh is the middle. Now, this is actually a very interesting thing, that in the Zohar, it talks about Shabbat. We usually think about Shabbat as being the end of the week, right? Weekend. The Zohar, it says the Shabbat is actually the middle. because Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is the days before Shabbat, and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the days after Shabbat, and that's how we like the center. The center is Shabbat. So everything revolves around Shabbat. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'm getting ready for Shabbat, and Sunday, Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, I'm like recovering from Shabbat. But everything is Shabbat. Shabbat is the thing that everything is centered around Shabbat. So that's why Shabbat represents the center, and Shabbat is the thing that grounds everything. The Shabbat is this place that if it wouldn't be for Shabbat, then I would just be going crazy. And Shabbat is the thing that brings everything to a place of rest. Okay, Shabbat menucha. Shabbat menucha. So it's really the opposite. It's that during the week, so I'm doing my stuff, but I'm always centering back. I'm always circling back. I'm always have this home base. My home base is Shabbat, and that's what 7 represents. Okay, so now the number 7. So that represents Shabbat. And that's the Reshit Bara Elokeinu et Hashemayim v'et haaretz. This is when Hashem first created the world. So it was perfect. It was in this one moment of the Reshit Bara Elokeinu. Just there was no Yetzer Hara, there was no snake, there was no people. Everything was just complete bliss, complete perfection. And that's a moment that the beginning of creation was a place of rest. It was a place without any journey, without everything was just it was exactly the way it needs to be. And that's what 7 represents. 7 represents you're not going anywhere. Somebody once sent me a meme that goes, "You are exactly where you need to be." Good Shabbos. That's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is to come to this state of mind that I'm not going anywhere because I am exactly where I need to be. There's kol melachtecha asuya. Everything is done. There is nothing to do. There is nothing to do. I am exactly where I need to be. It's the most amazing feeling. Like all of our anxiety is like all the stuff that I need to do. I feel like such a loser. I haven't accomplished. I feel like, and Shabbat is that like everything is perfect. What? But no, everything is perfect. It couldn't be better. It couldn't. This is exactly what I want. I wouldn't want anything different. I wouldn't want the food to be even a little bit better. I wouldn't want my house to be a little bit bigger. All my relationships are exactly the way I want them to be. I'm not looking for anything. I'm basking in the bliss of the perfection of my experience. And that's what Shabbos is. That's what it comes to. What it means to come into the mentality of 7 is that everything is completely done. Okay? And then we have after Shabbos, Shabbos ends. Then back to I'm not going to call it reality. They call it the other reality. Okay, the parallel reality, and that's the reality of 6. And so the world of 6. This is the world where of our journey. This is the world of our struggles. This is the world where we're trying to accomplish things. And so in the world of journeys, so we have ups and downs. This is also represented in the history of the universe, because we have 6,000 years that we're supposed to be trying to perfect ourselves. 6,000 years we're trying to bring the world to a place of redemption, of a place of perfection. And right now we're in the 6th day. We're towards the end of Friday, towards the end of the 6th day. And then after 6,000 years of working, so then we have another 1,000 years of Mashiach. That's the 1,000 years of perfection. So that's 1,000 years of quiet, of rest, of that no more trying, no more accomplishing. That we're there. 1,000 years of just being there. So in this mentality of 6, so this is where we have to struggle. This is where we have to work. This is where we have to accomplish. And in this reality of struggling, of moving, of the 6 directions, so then there's a lot of trials and tribulations, and there's a lot of falling. So a person who's going to be in the world of 6, so they have to know that there's going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be trying, and they're going to be falling. They have to pick themselves back up. So that's why really in the 6, so there's actually 2 elements of the 6. That there's the falling of the 6, and then there's picking yourself up. And that's where we get to 12. So really the 12 the 12 represents the number 12. This is double 6, and we started with the number 6. The number 12 is that the Torah ends that the l'chol yad chazaka, that the very end of the Torah ends with the number 12. So the number 12 is our reality in this world, a reality of falling down, getting back up, and trying, failing, and not giving up. So this is the world of 12, and this is why the number 12 represents the 12 tribes. And this is the Yud Bet Shvatim, that we all have our specific path in trying to bring ourselves towards the goal. And he writes that what's 12? 12 is 10 plus 2. 2 is Yosef and Yehuda, that those are the leaders, that those are the two Mashiachs. We have Mashiach ben Yosef, Mashiach ben David, comes from Yehuda, and they are fixing the 10. The 10 is the common folk, and the common folk have all of their issues, and so the Mashiach, the two Mashiachs, their job is to bring us to our perfection because we have so much going on, we have so much to fix. So that the number 12 represents that the 2 fixing the 10, and that represents our journey in fixing ourselves. So this is what the number 12 represents. This is what number 7 represents. So he says that this is also an idea in the beginning of the parsha, that we have a mitzvah in this week's parsha called the mitzvah of the Chatzotrot. And the Chatzotrot, so we have a mitzvah to blow. They're like trumpets, and in the trumpets, so it's similar to our shofar. So there's different notes. Sometimes we have a tekiah, sometimes you have a trua. Okay, what's the difference between tekiah and a trua? A tekiah and a trua. So tekiah is one long note. That's tekiah. Trua is very broken up. So the psukim say that when we travel, tru'a yitku'u l'masehem. That the part of the purpose of the trumpets was as a sign that it's time to travel. And when they would want to tell us that it's time to travel, what would they use? They would use the trua. The purpose of the trua is to tell us to travel, because traveling represents that things are messed up. Things are broken up, and the trua is a cry of a struggle. It's a cry of that I'm very, very far from where I need to be, and it's like everything is just backwards, and everything is just not the way it's supposed to be, and it's a cry of working. It's a cry of struggling. It's a cry of trying to get to a better place. And then the tekiah, on the other hand, so it says that you're supposed to use the tekiah when you're supposed to gather everybody together. Okay, that's that when we're in the mindset of tekiah is that it's about being at rest, being exactly where you need to be. Okay, so the Torah is telling us that we have these different mindsets, these different ways of existence. We have the mindset of 6, the mindset of 7. 6 is the journey, and 7 is the end goal. And so really the Torah starts with the Bereshit. Bereshit is 7. Bereshit is that being at rest, and then we have in the middle we have Bamidbar, which is the 12, and then at the very end is going to be a tekiah. And that, so the question was, how come the Torah starts with 7, ends with 12, and in Vayir and Sarah it starts with 12 and it ends with 7. Okay. So the idea is like this, that when Hashem created the world, so Hashem created the world with perfection, with simplicity. And only afterwards did we come into the picture and things got complicated. And we got this very deep journey. And that deep journey did not end at the end of the Torah. That when Moshe Rabbeinu died, so then that was, our troubles had just begun. Like that was that, it talks about like we're still in the desert and we're still waiting for our redemption. And yet, that when we're coming from the perspective of the Midbar, from the perspective of the desert, so it starts with 12, but it tells us that at the end, there's going to be a rest at the end. Okay? In other words, that the order is tekiah, trua, tekiah. That it starts with rest, and then in the middle there's a journey. But you need to know that at the end there's going to be a rest. There's going to be a Shabbat. We're going towards a goal. And so this is really telling us that there's two elements of Shabbat. There's two elements of Shabbat. This is something that we need to understand. That there's a Gemara that says that if the Jewish people would keep one Shabbos, they would immediately be redeemed. Okay. Mordechai David has a song based on that. It's called Just One Shabbos. Okay? Just one Shabbos and we'll all be free. Does there's another Gemara. And the other Gemara says that if the Jewish people would keep two Shabboses, it doesn't sound as good. So if we keep two Shabboses, then we would just be free. Okay, and then Mashiach would come. So how come?
Nobody raised the two Shabbos as 3 Shabbos?
No, nobody says 3. Nobody says that's hard enough. We're hoping for 1. So which is it? Is it 1 or is it 2? So there's a very beautiful thing for the Sasemis. Sasemis says the really it's enough to have 1 Shabbos. But you know what? If you really want to have a Shabbos, the only way to have a real Shabbos is if you have a good 6 days. And the only way that you can have a real good 6 days is only if you have a good Shabbos. Okay, so first you have to start with the Shabbos. Okay, if you're not going to have a good Shabbos, you're not going to have, like that. I've heard hundreds of stories of people that had a religious journey. It always starts with a Shabbos meal. The beginning of every journey is Shabbos, and then after Shabbos you have 6 days, and sometimes the 6 days, sometimes it lasts 50 years, and then at the end of the 50 years, the end of the 6 days, then you have another Shabbos. And that's the Shabbos of the end goal. That's the Shabbos of reaching your destination. So what does this represent? What's the first Shabbos? So there's a very beautiful thing that we've spoken about this before. That there's a very popular therapy around these days called DBT. DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. So what's dialectic? Dialectic is that the existence of two paradoxical things that at the same time. Okay, so that's the concept of dialectic. It's based on some philosopher, I think Hegel or whatever. So what's the dialectic of DBT? That if you want to heal, if you want to have emotional health, you need to be able to be experiencing two opposite, contradictory mentalities simultaneously. Number 1, something that they call radical acceptance. Right? What does it mean, radical acceptance? That acceptance means that it is what it is. That I'm not interested in things getting better. I'm going to stop beating myself up for the fact that my life doesn't look the way I was hoping for it to look. I'm going to stop complaining about the fact that everything is not the way I want it to be. And it is what it is. It is what it is. And it couldn't be any better. And from that place, that's called radical acceptance. Like even the craziest things in the world, people that do this. There's people, there's people that you can't imagine. You can't imagine how they're happy, and they're happy. In ancient years, there was one of the students of the Maggid was named Reb Zusha Menapoli. So he was a very, very sick man, very, very poor man, and someone came to the Maggid. They tell me, I'm so depressed. What do I do? How do I deal with all my afflictions? He said, go to Reb Zusha. Reb Zusha will help you. So the guy came to Reb Zusha and he said, the Maggid said that I should ask you for advice. That because you know how to be happy despite the fact that you have such a horrible life. So I don't understand what the Rebbe meant. It must have meant somebody else, because I have an amazing life. He couldn't imagine that he had a bad life. He didn't have any money. He didn't have health. Things were just okay. Today we have people. There's an amazing guy. His name is Rabbi Yitzharowitz. He is a Chabad shliach that about 10 years ago he was diagnosed with ALS, and little by little his entire body started failing him, and to the point that for the past 5 years or so, that he's only able to communicate with his eyes, and despite the fact that he's completely disabled, but every single week he puts out a Dvar Torah online, and it's full of emunah and full of motivation and full of excitement, and he doesn't. It couldn't be worse. You can imagine. You would think that how could your life possibly be worse? And he's happy. He's a happy man because that's called radical acceptance. It is what it is. I'll make the most of it. I'll become a master of lemonade. And this is it couldn't be better. Okay, that's called radical acceptance. And so there was in DBT they described that there was a person that he was in solitary confinement, and he was like a very dangerous man, and so he was allowed to have a meeting with a psychiatrist, and so the meeting took place just like they with like a little thing for the eyes, like that they was able to see their eyes, and that's it, because he was just a very dangerous man. And so they opened up the hall, and the guy says, "You have to get me out of here! You have to get me out of here! I'm dying! I'm just going crazy!" And so the psychiatrist told him that, like, I know this sounds crazy, but the only way for you to actually get out of here is if you stop thinking about getting out of here. That you just need to accept that this is my life. I'm in solitary confinement, and that's the way it's going to be, and make the most of it. And to just accept that it can't be better, and just like stop thinking about it being better, and it is what it is, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to make the most of it, and that's the only way that you're actually going to get better. Okay, that's mentality number one. Mentality number two is the mentality of change. Okay, if you want to improve your life, so you need to be able to make your life better, and that figure out what's wrong, what I'm doing wrong, and how can I improve things, and how because the reason why my life is so backwards is because I made some bad mistakes, and I should stop making those mistakes. I should improve the way I deal with my people around me. Maybe the reason why I have no friends is because I'm really a disgusting person. Maybe if I stop being so obnoxious, maybe people want to be around me, and maybe I have to figure out. Maybe I have to start taking a shower more than once a month, and maybe whatever it is that the reason why everybody is like why my life is so bad. So maybe I have to figure it out and do whatever it takes to make those changes and just do it. And so I have to be excited about, I'm ready to change. I'm not stuck in my ways, and I'm ready to make real progress in my life. So think about it. These two mentalities, they're complete opposites. Because if everything's okay, so then I don't need to change. And if I need to change, everything's not okay. So it's actually a paradox, right? So that's the dialectic, and that's if you want to actually have a good life, you need to be able to embrace these two opposite mentalities, even though it actually doesn't make sense, and that's okay, because we don't need to understand everything. So these two mentalities. First of all, is radical acceptance, and second of all, change. So the Torah comes to tell us that how do you bring yourself to embrace these two mentalities simultaneously? What's the order? So you have to start with Shabbos. You have to start with radical acceptance. And only from the place of everything is okay, then I can be in a healthy place. That from this healthy place, that I'm happy about myself, I'm proud of myself, I love myself. From that place that I accept myself and I love myself. From that place, and only from that place, can I go start to work on myself. Can I go start to change myself, to improve myself, to make myself into the person that I would actually like to be. And once I do that, then I'm going to come to the Shabbos, the Shabbos of satisfaction, the Shabbos of completion, the Shabbos of accomplishment. So this is the Torah tells us very clearly that the order needs to start with acceptance. It needs to start from the place that I'm proud of myself, that I'm not beating myself up, I don't look at myself as a loser, I don't look at myself as somebody that doesn't deserve to exist. And the starting point needs to be that of Shabbos. The starting point needs to be Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, that Hashem created me perfect, Hashem needs me in this world, I am exactly the way I need to be. And from that place of self-love, only then, once I've really, really convinced myself that I'm lovable, once I'm really convinced myself that I have a place in this world, that Hashem has a mission for me, so from that place, then I can say, okay, now how can I improve? How can I bring things better? Yes, so first is the tekiah, then is the teruah, that's with the change, that's the journey, and only afterwards comes the tekiah. And this is really something that we all experience in the course of our lives, and this is what childhood is really supposed to be. This is really that people, that their parents constantly tell them that you're so amazing, that you're so precious, that you're so beautiful, you're so talented, you're so intelligent, and that those children, that everything is taken care of for them, that they feel that they belong, that they feel that they deserve things, that they feel that they deserve love, and they deserve compliments, and they deserve everything. So those kids that start from a place of everything's okay, from a place of that everything is taken care of, that I feel so protected, I feel so that have that feeling of Shabbos. Children that grow up with a feeling of Shabbos, that everything is exactly the way it needs to be. So they're the ones that are ready to tackle life when they get older. And the children that their parents never felt them, never allowed them to feel like they can just depend on someone. The parents that never allow their kids to feel like they're loved. People that never allow their kids to feel that they belong, that they just deserve things. That parents that whenever they ask them for something, it was always like, well, why should I? Like, why? What did you do to deserve? Like, in this house, you have to earn your share. You have to pull your weight. I don't know what kind of sentences people create to make kids feel that to manipulate kids into working for them, and that if a kid that feels that they're like, I need to prove myself, so then they never feel that place of deserving. They never get that place of self-worth. So that the entire life they're craving it, and that they never really have that space that, yes, I am enough. I deserve love. I deserve a good life. And so they can never actually go and conquer the world, because first they constantly need to convince themselves that, like, I deserve to exist. And it's tragic. It's tragic. So the first step needs to be a step of Shabbos. The first step is a step of that I simply know that I deserve everything. I know that Hashem loves me just for who I am. Hashem loves me just because He created me, and I have inherent self-worth. And that is the first step. That's what every parent is obligated to give this to their children. And if we didn't get it from children, then it's the job of the person to give it to themselves, to convince themselves from learning Torah, from listening to this class, from their friends, from their teachers, to convince themselves that I am enough, that I am awesome, that I have something to contribute, and I don't need to become something else in order to become worthy of existence, to become worthy of love, to become worthy of anything. And from the place of a feeling of belonging, from a feeling of worth, so then I go to the truth, then I go to the midbar, then I go to the journey of life, the journey of the ups and downs, and going to the journey of the 12, and the journey of the constantly falling and constantly getting up again, and understanding that it's okay. Like that the most important thing is to keep on plugging away, keep on trying, keep on picking myself up, and then existing in the desert, succeeding in the desert, and then from that place of pushing through the desert, then I come to the ultimate Shabbat at the end, to the seven at the end, the place that I've actually accomplished everything that I need to accomplish. I've actually completed it. I've actually reached my goal. I've reached my destination. So this is really what this Parsha is all about. This is really what this Sefer is all about. The Sefer Bamidbar is the Ishbitzer would say that Sefer Bamidbar, it's the Sefer of Fashlas. It's the Sefer of Fashlot. It's the Sefer of mess-ups. The Sefer of how we keep on falling and we keep on picking ourselves up. And this is the Sefer that we understand that we'll never reach a goal without this journey, without the struggle, without this desert, without falling, without feeling that we don't know where we're going, and that it's okay because it couldn't have been otherwise. And we certainly would never reach Shabbos if we wouldn't have the 6 days. If we wouldn't have this mentality of I'm working and I'm trying and I'm failing, and the message of the midbar, the message of the desert is that it's through these fallings, it's through these mistakes that we actually get to Shabbos. And we wouldn't be able to make Shabbos if it wouldn't be for this incredible falling and incredible being lost. There's once Shlomo Kabbalah said once an amazing thing, that in any Jewish library you have a section called the Shutim. Shutim means it's a conjugation of Shelot Utshuvot. It's a responsa. It means responsa. It means that throughout all the generations, like from the times of Yishanim, that there's Shuvas Rashi, there's Shuvas Harashba, Shuvas Haritva, and then all the other Shuvas Harivash, and Shuvas Beis Yosef, and that there's an entire shelves. There's thousands of books of Shelos and Shuvas. And so much of Torah is from these Shelos and Shuvas, from the Shutim. And so he said once a very amazing thing. Every single page of Shelos and Shuvas, you know how it came to be? Somebody messed up. If it wouldn't have been that something, when everything goes the way it's supposed to go, so then you don't have to ask questions, right? When do you have to ask Rabbi a question? You only have to ask Rabbi a question when something messes up. Like, Rabbi, I just woke up. It's 2 p.m. What do I do now? Can I still daven shachars? Can I still put on tefillin? Rabbi, I forgot that this was a melchik pat, and I made. What do I do now? And whatever it is, like so many, all the stuff that we mess up. We forgot to open this. We forgot to ask if it's kosher. Whenever things don't go straight, whenever they don't go the way that we planned it to go, that's when we ask question. And because of the doubts. That's why the rabbi had to look up all the books, look up all the sources, and write this amazing responsa. And so this shelves and shelves, books and libraries of Torah comes from what? Comes from mistakes. This is the Torah of Bamidbar, is the appreciation of the fact that if it wouldn't have been for all these ups and downs, if it wouldn't have been for this Teruah, then we would never reach the Shabbos. We would never reach the end goal. We would never reach the Geula. So the message of Sefer Bamidbar is to treasure our journey, is to, first of all, to make sure that it starts with Bereshit. We need to start with a place of believing that you are enough. And then once you know that you are enough, then you realize that your journey is meaningful. And your journey is not that you're a good for nothing, maybe get your act together, and then maybe you deserve to exist. That from the fact that I know that I deserve to exist, I know that my journey is actually precious. I know that my journey is actually something worthwhile. I know that I'm going somewhere. And not only that, but I know that it's going to bring me to my Shabbos. It's going to bring me to my world of 7. It's going to bring me to my redemption, to my completion. So I bless us all that we should really be able to appreciate that we come from a good stack. We come from a place that Hashem really believes in us. Before we start, before we fell, before our journey began. So Hashem says that you are awesome. I'm so proud that you're here. I'm so happy that you're here. And then from that place of understanding that we have worth, to appreciate that our journey is getting us somewhere, to even when it doesn't look like it, even when it looks like we're just going in circles, even when it looks like we're just falling, getting up over and over and over and over, to appreciate that we know that we are getting somewhere, whether we know it or not. And through this appreciation of knowing that we're getting somewhere, that is precisely what's going to allow us to actually see the Geula, to see the redemption, to see the fact that soon, very, very soon, Hashem will come and tell us that look at the beautiful Torah, look at this awesome book of Jewish history, look at how every time you fell, that you were creating Torah by getting up again, and that every single journey, every single struggle, every time we picked ourselves, this is part of this awesome book of Vayhi ben Sarah that the Mashiach will reveal, and we're going to have our place, have our part. We're going to be stars in this awesome book, B'ezrat Hashem. L'chaim.